Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Schmoedown Rundown. Introducing first, Frankie Stats Janisch. And their co-host, the man of controversy, Mr. Brian the Duke Davids. And finally, your host, Aaron Turner. Let's get ready to Schmoedown.
What's going on, Movie Trivia Schmoedown fans? It is episode number 55 of the Schmoedown Rundown. My name is Aaron. I am your host for this episode. Joining me today, Statman Frank Janisch. What's up, pal?
How you guys doing? How you guys liking that app? Well, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, a lot of time spent, a lot of coins gained from the app. Brian, how you doing, man? Brian Davids also here.
Aaron, Frank, what was the title of Tim Burton's 1989 Batman film?
Just Batman?
Notice how the presence of the word film after the general name Batman, sans quotes in italics, results in the general phrase Batman film? If I wanted to reference the title directly, I would have said Tim Burton's 1989 film, Batman, or 1989's Batman, or Tim Burton's Batman with 1989 in parentheses, just because the general phrase Batman film contains a word that is synonymous with the title of Burton's film, that doesn't mean it's a direct reference to the title itself.
Are we still on this?
I don't even know what that's referencing.
We are still on this because I had to read comments all week with people completely misunderstanding this point still. So
I don't understand this reference.
I felt that if I made another example of the same point, that people might understand it better. So
Oh my god. Okay, now I know what you're talking about. Never mind. I know what you're talking
No,
about.
I knew exactly right away.
It took me a second. I got what you're saying. Well, let's talk about this. Let's get into it. From the desk of the commissioner, this is hot off the presses. I spoke to Christian while he was on sabbatical and continues to be on sabbatical. Festival Darlings is being retooled. This is something we talked about last week.
Why?
We had different opinions on the category. The wording of questions that you guys brought up it's a bit tough, and I just generally was not a fan of the category. Christian did tell me it was being retooled. They were going to reevaluate some of the questions, some of the wording, some of the difficulty. And unfortunately, somebody's got to be the example, the test subject, and that was unfortunately William Bibbiani this time. We've seen this in the past with challenges, with Team Trek, and things of that nature. You don't want to be the precedent-setting match, but unfortunately that's how it is. But Festival of Darlings is getting retooled. There is no word yet on when that will be implemented, but they're working on it. So fans of William Bibbiani, fans of Festival Darlings, the category, fear not, it is going to come back. So a retooling here, guys. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't really understand the backlash to Festival Darlings. I don't understand the need to retool. It's simply do what you've always been doing as far as questions. That first impression had very specific questions, far more than usual. So, Aaron, I know you buried the category last week despite my attempts to change your mind. However, I did see your Take 3 reaction, which I guess you kind of had to uphold, understandably, because you recorded that first. Is that correct?
Correct.
But the category, as I keep saying, it's not the problem. It's the indie category, in essence, acclaimed indies that we see. I think people took it a bit too literally in some cases and thought that you had to go to festivals to be able to understand many of the questions and obviously answer them. But make no mistake, if something is deemed a festival darling, we've seen it, whether it's La La Land, Whiplash, Arrival, Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, Fruitvale Station, Wind River, Winter's Bone. The questions were just far too specific last week compared to every other category in Schmoedown history. Thus, people overreact as they often do whenever something debuts, whether it's a new player that dominates like the Beast once did, or a new fantasy segment, or a new wheel category. The fan base has proven that it will go from one extreme to the other when it comes to their reaction to someone or something new.
Frank, Brian brings up some really good points there. I'm still kind of poo-pooing it. I'm sorry. But what do you think about this retooling?
I think if they want to go back and figure out how to question this category, I think that's a legit thing that they could look at to do. I think that's warranted criticism. I thought, yes, there were some highly specific questions with this category, unlike we've seen in other categories. So if that's what they're going for, and that's what they're looking at, then I'm on board with that. I don't think there's anything wrong looking at how you word questions. Regarding that, it's a second round type of category. Question wording is just as much a part of the difficulty level as is the answer. So when you're talking about a round 2 question, yeah, I think those questions should align somewhat evenly with other categories and those types of questions and how they are worded.
A typical Schmoedown question would ask, what film led to Jennifer Lawrence's first Oscar nomination? Winter's Bone. If the question asked, what was her character's name, most people wouldn't be able to pull such a specific detail.
Winter? I don't know.
So don't retool the category, just retool the category's questions so they're more in line with every other Schmoedown category.
The app dropped this week on the 10th. A lot of downloads, a lot of people playing it. I saw some demos out there. Frank, you demoed a little bit as well. We've got about, let's see, this is Friday, so we got about 3 or 4 days under our belts. We've had a good bit of time to play this. I'll give you my impressions first. I think it's interesting that it kind of gives you the Schmoedown feel. So when you're playing a game and you kind of can't pull something right away, now I get that feeling that some of the players get when they're like, oh crap, I just couldn't pull it. And that's kind of frustrating, but it's also fun at the same time. I like spinning the wheel. For some reason, my main strength is Pixar. I don't know how that happened, but it is. Frank, what are your impressions from playing this so far?
First off, I had a lot of fun playing just a single player mode, trying to work my way up the ladder. If you took a look or you saw some of my live stream on the Movie Trivia Schmoedown Facebook page, you'll see that I'm not quite good, but I try to have fun with it even though I don't know a lot of the answers. I eventually do learn the answers. Yeah, you have fun playing the game, and you learn a little something about movies.
So how far did you make it up the Mortal Kombat style?
You're gonna make me you're gonna make me embarrass myself.
Yeah.
I think.
Oh, I'm embarrassed with you, so don't worry.
I think I've been 3-0 probably once or twice. That fourth match, I ran into Yodi one time and he just destroyed me. So, or Roca, he destroyed me as well. So it's just about as real life as you could get in a sense.
Jeff Snyder has beaten me every single time. I've never beaten Jeff Snyder, so that kind of sounds like an actual Schmoedown to me. I don't think I could beat him. I knocked out Tom Dagnino, though, so that kind of makes it feel real. Brian, what are your overall impressions of the app so far?
Admittedly, I'm still playing around with the demo that we've had for the last 6 months or so, and I would have bought it this week, but I've been way too busy this week. Plus, I saw some of the early feedback and decided to wait a week or two until the first round of updates are made. That's usually what I do if there's a device update that I need to make. I try not to be first. That way the kinks are worked out by the time I make my way to something. And look, folks, this is the way that app rollouts work. You roll it out and then changes are necessary, and this is just the way things go. So it's expected. It's nothing to worry about. You see the potential that is there. If the demo was great, I'm sure the first version is already great. I can't wait to play it next week.
Yeah, guys, I mean, we got to understand a little bit here. Like, just to give you an example, I play a mobile game called WWE Supercard. It's backed by 2K, a huge gaming company, and they have updates every single week. So with a Schmoedown game that's more or less, independently funded, if you will, it's going to have issues. Any game is going to have issues during rollout. So be patient. Let Elliot do what he's got to do to retool the game. I believe they're doing an update this weekend. So all that kind of stress that you're getting from people quitting out on games and causing you losses and matchmaking, that's all going to be taken care of. This happens. It's just part of the process of video gaming, not just mobile gaming, just video games in general. I can't tell you how many times I've played a new Call of Duty and it's gone to the pits in the first weekend. That's how it goes sometimes. But something else I want to talk about, I threw out the gauntlet. I threw out a challenge. If you see me online in the Schmoedown app and you can play me and beat me, good luck, then I will buy you a Blu-ray of your choice. You just have to screenshot it. You just got to prove it to me and then send it to me. and I will buy you a Blu-ray of your choice. Now, let's not get crazy here. Like, I'm not going to buy you, like, the Alien quadrilogy or something like that. Like, maybe one single movie. Like, I don't want to buy you the complete series of Smallville. It's not going to happen. But maybe, like, Blade Runner, I'll buy you a copy of Blade Runner. So, just keep an eye out. You know, first and last name, Aaron Turner. You can find me on there. Take a screenshot. And if you beat me, Blu-ray of your choice. I'm going to extend the contest. I normally said 2 weeks, but with all these updates that are coming and new people come to the game, I'll give you to the end of the month. I'll give you till the 31st. And if you beat me, Blu-ray your choice, I'll mention you on the show. You'll get a shout out. US only right now. International people, if you do beat me as well, I'll shout you out on the show. Can't send you a Blu-ray, but I'll do that for you. So, happy hunting, I guess.
What about a festival darling of their choice?
Oh boy. Like Stronger or something like that?
Safety not guaranteed. Again, Arrival still counts as a festival darling. The options are endless.
I do like Aubrey Plaza. Well, let's talk about a little bit of sad news this week, as Jeremy Jahns, our favorite Joker, is leaving Collider Video, heading back up north to Seattle. So Jeremy is taking a break from the Schmoedown for, we didn't really get the reason. That's fine. That's his business. But the Joker's left. I talked to Christian today about this, and he said that Jeremy, of course, is always welcome to come back. The door is not closed. Jeremy can come back anytime, compete in Intergeekdom, whatever he wants. So, Brian, give me your kind of overall thoughts on when you heard the news, and what do you think about Jeremy going forward here?
Jeremy Jahns, we bid you adieu. I respected Collider's decision to go big late last year by investing in a name brand talent in effort to grow the channel. And while the Jeremy Jahns experience was far different than I expected, he really became an unexpected Schmoedown delight, as he was part of some of the best matches to date, whether it was his awesome-tacular advantage that upset the Crusher in an Intergeekdom Fatal 5-Way, or his narrow defeat against a still living and breathing Robert Meyer Burnett, or that heartbreaking loss to Nightmare Navarro that really should have been his had Mark Ellis taken him to Amoeba Records a couple more times the last year. But I hope the Joker realizes that he's welcome back anytime, not just by the staff, but by the fan base. He's a main eventer, whether it's IGD or Star Wars, and I hope we see him back for at least one of the next few main events.
Frank, your thoughts on Jeremy leaving and what you hope to see from him in the future?
Yeah, it stinks that he's leaving Collider. I enjoyed, while he was at Collider, what he brought there, especially to the Schmoedown. He became someone in the Intergeekdom that I did not think he would be, and he went toe-to-toe with Hector Navarro. Essentially, pretty much won the game, but technically didn't, as we all know. I look forward to the next time he is in the Intergeekdom, because it is a much better league with him in it, rather than not in it at all.
Yeah, and he's been quite the improved player. I believe he was a couple of our improved players of the year. He's had a great year in the Schmoedown, just maybe one question off from taking that belt from Hector Navarro, so I'd like to see him back for sure.
We can't forget about Free For All's David Griffin either, as he departed for IGN. Vejvoda's vendetta over the Clammy Hands debacle is more serious than we thought. Perhaps Team Clammy Hands will give way to Team IGN 2.0, with Griffin replacing Goldman. So, Aaron, how about this potential nickname for David Griffin? The British Bulldog.
You know what? You just surprised the hell out of me with that. I really think that's an awesome name. I like that. No, but he does like British TV shows.
Oh, that's true.
He's known for his British palate on TV Talk. Right. So
I will tell you this about David Griffin. Just from meeting the guy I talked to him actually for a lot at Celebration. David Griffin is the nicest guy on planet Earth. Like, everything you see on Collider Video and how everybody says he's such a nice guy, 100% true. Great guy. Glad he's getting this opportunity. Well-deserved. Big David Griffin fan.
Yeah, congrats, David.
All right, guys, let's get into our first recap. It was the Crusher, Rachel Cushing, versus the Android, Marc Andreyko. Got to talk about the promos here. Rachel saying that since, I guess, Andreyko's an android, that he has no heart. Found that very interesting. Andreyko said, unfortunately, I have to destroy Rachel. So interesting comments there. Let's go ahead. I'm going to jump to the entrances as well. We'll talk about this all as one bulk. Rachel coming out and tearing up different pictures of androids. I saw Ash in there, the android from Short Circuit. And it ultimately ended with Marc Andreyko being crushed. I thought for a second she wasn't going to do the crush, which I would have been fine with because you kind of don't want to do it every time. But Of course, I'm wrong. She did an amazing job. Andreyko came out very nicely, shaking hands with, of course, Jeff Snyder and Tom Dagnino by his side, and Jeff Snyder with about 50 toothpicks in his mouth. So, Frank, what did you think of this overall presentation between Rachel and Andreyko?
Well, first off, Dagnino talking about how Rachel just knows about dragons. I thought that was very funny. Between Andreyko and Rachel, I felt like there was a lot of underlying respect there that they weren't quite saying about each other in exact terms, but you could kind of hint that it was there. Both of them were going to places, trying to take little subtle jabs here, but not too much. Dagnino obviously didn't care. Rachel's entrance. There's few songs that give me the chills when people enter the Schmoedown. The Godfather theme does it for me, but walking out to Terminator was just absolutely amazing. It's one of my favorite themes of all time, and it was pretty awesome. That's all I can say.
That kick pedal, man, it gets me every time. It's such good pump-up music.
Well, Brian, tell me what you thought overall of this package. You got Rachel crushing androids. We got Jeff Snyder with 50 toothpicks. He's not even in the match. What's going on?
Well, I thought this Smack Talk package was kind of awkward since Tommy D and Mark A kind of had to hold back a bit. It's tough to really dish it to someone as likable as Rachel. So when Tommy D has to go with, you only know about dragons, he's running out of things to say in this case. I mean, even he knows that he really can't dig into Rachel just because everybody likes Rachel. So promo Smack Talk can be tough for new opponents with no history between each other, but it can also be tough for the facest of faces versus the heelest of heels. But that's fine though. We've got plenty of competitors that will rip each other's hearts out before the match. The androids being put to sleep, I thought that was very effective. Hopefully they get to dream of Electric Sheep, but I must disagree though, as I think the Crusher can be done every time, much like the Stunner or People's Elbow. My favorite part though was Christian's reaction to the Henry Cavill joke. He did this laugh to this Henry Cavill joke that for some reason just made me crack up even more. So that was really my biggest takeaway of this pre-match, and I did like how Mark shook Rachel's hand before the match. So the Lion's Den, they're not the bastards that some people make them out to be.
The respectful den, it looked like in this match. Let's talk about round one. It was Andreyko getting 4 of 8 for 4 points, Rachel getting 7 of 8 for 7 points, but the story is more so that she got 7 in a row. Missed the first question, went on a tear, got 7 in a row. Andreyko only getting half of the possible points. This is telling already in round one. Frank, what did you think here?
Yeah, Andreyko, he's such an up-and-down player. We've seen him do extremely well in the free-for-all. Obviously, the classic, infamous knockout of the other 4 people at the table, his debut match against Bibiani, but then he's had matches like Jay Washington and against John Humphrey where he just has absolute stinkers, even though he comes away with the win. So for him to get 4 points kind of made sense because he had a good run in the teams, performed very well, and now he kind of follows that up with a stinker, just like he's done pretty much his entire run in the Schmoedown. But Rachel, coming out here with 7 points after I guess a disappointing loss with the Nerds Watch with Ken Knapsack, to come out here in a singles match in the tournament, no less, to put up 7 points, very, very impressive.
What do you think, Brian?
Cushing proved why I chose her to win it all, as she's not intimidated by the android in the slightest. She proved that with her first round. 7 out of 8, my goodness. The android, as Frank said, it's tough to get a true read on him sometimes, and he kind of admitted that there are some holes in the 90s for him, but when it comes to the natural Barry Levinson, I'm surprised he missed that. I'm surprised he missed the Sam Worthington salvation question. So we're still figuring the android out. Obviously, we've seen how high his game can go, but we've also seen how low it can go, especially against Jamie and Washington. So this is a troubling round, but the question for me was he going to bounce back the rest of this match? And so we'll get to that in a second.
Well, in round 2 for Rachel, she was up first. She got Sandra Bullock, went 4 of 4, got 6 points, leaving no steal opportunities for the android. And at this point, Rachel has answered 11 in a row correct. 13-4 after her turn. Frank, what'd you think here, man?
Yeah, I like that Rachel came into this round playing it kind of safe, going to multiple choice twice, making sure she got the points, not giving up anything to Andreyko to steal. And then she got two pointers on her third and fourth question. That's a very solid round, 7 points. You can't really ask much more from Rachel, especially in a category that she seemed iffy to begin with. So I thought it was a great performance for her second round.
Murder by numbers. How old is Michael Pitt? That was something that popped up in my mind. Brian, what did you think of her turn here?
What was interesting was Rachel spun animation to start, and she didn't want it. So, as we've talked about for a long time, animation, Pixar, people shy away from these categories. And so, I was surprised that she shied away from animation, but I wasn't at the same time, given the history. But she spun Sandra Bullock, Ryan Gosling's ex-girlfriend, and when I saw that she went multiple choice on those first 2 questions, I instantly thought, wow, this is going to let Android back in the match. However, she recovered nicely, answering question 3 and question 4. Adam Ray, the Heat, friend of the show, that was referenced as the phrase in that question. I wonder if Adam wrote this question himself. I wonder if there's a backstory behind that. Christian, please let us know, or Skalisky, please let us know if Adam actually wrote that. But yeah, it was the end of a 6-point turn for Cushing. Again, she struggled to start the round, but she bounced back nicely for 6 of 8. And again, this is why I picked her, because even when she struggles, she always seems to balance the ship.
Well, as we alluded to earlier, Marc Andreyko did hang in there. He got Oscar movies. He went 3 of 4, getting 6 points. Rachel did add a 1-point steal. Jack Lemmon's Oscar was for Save the Tiger. You know, Andreyko had such a bad first round. Missed his first question here. The first round definitely hurt him. And at this point right now, 12 in a row for Rachel. And after round 2, she leads 14-10. Frank, tell me what you thought of Andreyko's turn here.
When he missed that first one, even going to multiple choice, and Rachel stole it for the point, it was looking really bad. Just a lot of momentum, or just a lot of maybe thoughts of you getting back into the match. That's got to be somewhat of a zap to your system. But he persevered throughout the rest of this round, getting 2 points in the last 3 questions of each question. So it was a nice comeback, if you will, in the second round there to make things interesting, down 10-14.
Just to jump back for a second, I do want to give Rachel credit for that amazing James Garner pull in the Sisterhood of the Divine Traveling Pants, or whatever the hell that movie is called.
Who plays Sandra Bullock's father in the Divine Secrets of the Yaya Sisterhood? 5, 4.
James Garner?
2 points for Rachel. There's a big pull. Pulls down. The crowd goes nuts.
Android, his first spin was so poor that he spun it again before the first spin could even finish. So he kind of kept it going with a second spin, even though it was still his first spin. So I'm surprised that wasn't a bigger controversy, and I think it still counted as his first spin. You never see someone respin their first spin and still be their first spin. He got crime movies, he shied away from it, he spun again, and got Oscar movies. And as soon as he landed on Oscar movies, I thought of that excellent performance in the team tourney, where they essentially got classic Oscar movies. It was still Oscar movies, but the majority of the questions were classic based, and he just went crazy. So I thought he would repeat history here. The Jack Lemmon question, you would think that would be in his wheelhouse, and yet multiple choice, he missed it. Rachel stole it, 14-4 lead at that point, but then he bounced right back, answering the next 3 in a row. Whoopi's winning Ghost. John Singleton, the first black director to be nominated. Soderbergh's win for Traffic. End of a 6-point round for Android, despite those 2 points stolen by Rachel, giving her an 8-point round in total. The Android has proven that Oscar prowess in the past, so his success didn't surprise me, as I've been saying, but that first steal just killed his chances of winning this match. Had he gotten that, who knows what this match would have turned out to be. But Rachel is just so good, and that Jack Lemmon question proves it.
Well, Mark did have a little bit of momentum going into round 3 after hitting all those in a row, and he was up first. He got the 2-pointer, the Overlook Hotel in The Shining, 14-12 Rachel, Andreyko up again. He gets the three-pointer. Gene Hackman in the French Connection. He takes his first lead here, 15-14. So we head over to Rachel. She gets the two-pointer. Brian, how do you pronounce his name?
Donal Gleason. Tonal with a D. Tonal with a D.
In Ex Machina, which one of the four leads did he have? 16-15, Rachel retakes the lead. So we go to Marc Andreyko for his last chance. He's got to get the five-pointer or it's over. He cannot pull the original Ben Wade from 310 to Yuma. It was Glenn Ford, and Rachel Cushing moves on 16-15 over the Android. Frank, what'd you think, man?
That was a great effort by Andreyko to make this thing interesting. He got on a little bit of a run here at the end. It's just, again, it points to the fact that he's this up-and-down player, and had he not started so poorly, this could have went to the very last question for Rachel, and not just Andreyko, because his five-pointer was a pretty legit five-pointer, one that I've seen in a long time, and what a performance by Rachel. Now she's that two-pointer that gave her 13 straight in a row. You've been talking about it all match, Aaron, that she's been on this run since missing that first question in the first round. Just an unbelievable match by Rachel, and a nice performance from Andreyko, so he can look back on how he came back in this match and hopefully apply it to the next match he has.
Well, Frank, I didn't mean to steal your gimmick.
No, that's okay.
I know you're the stat guy. I didn't mean to steal your gimmick. But, Brian, I mean, we got Glenn Ford, not to be confused with Glenn Campbell, is the clincher for Rachel. What'd you think here?
Well, I like the restraint shown by Android as he was about to say Russell Crowe, but luckily he realized there were more words coming and he held back from answering, because a lot of players, not a lot of players, but we've seen people jump the gun like Emma in that Intergeekdom match where she thought she knew what the question was going to be and she answered too soon, only the question kept going. So I admire his restraint, and yeah, that first round, man, that just killed him, because ever since that point, he only missed two questions. Clarke Wolfe, had she been asked to answer that same question, name one of Donal's 4 films in 2015, had she been asked that question, she would have had to give all 4 movies as the answer instead of 1 out of the 4. So that's just a Schmoedown joke. But look, Ben Wade in the original 310 to Yuma, he used his repeat rule. He still missed it, but this is a true 5-pointer. And I have more points to make on this, but if you're going to go down, at least you go down to a question that you know is a true 5-pointer. So I'll talk more about this, but I like what he had to say after the match. But Cushing gets the win, 16-15. I'm not down on Android overall. I am disappointed because I do think he's a better player than this. I think that first round, for whatever reason, just sometimes he gets off to a slow start. Can't take anything away from Rachel. I've got her going to the final. I've got her winning. And I'm very impressed with this match, all things considered.
Well, let's talk about the post-match now. Rachel talking with Emma, and then all of a sudden we have a run-in from Jay Washington. That's what I'll call it. And he's continually trying to recruit Rachel to join the Misfit stable, though he didn't hang around as long. He's like, you know what, you think about it, and you let us know. And Rachel continues to, give it some thought, but probably is not going to head that way. And Rachel was very respectful to Marc Andreyko, as we saw in the pre-match and now the post-match. So it was an okay interview overall. A little bit of highlight action there. Frank, what'd you think here? Anything stick out to you?
Not a whole lot. I mean, Jay obviously coming into the interview, I don't know. I know they keep pushing this thing that he's trying to recruit Clarke Wolfe and trying to recruit Rachel Cushing, and I know this already. And so when he keeps popping in here and there whenever they have a match, it's like I know what's coming. I know he's trying to woo them in a sense to join the Misfits. So when he pops in, I know what he's going to do, although I don't know how he's going to quite do it. So this was a little more subdued and a little, I guess you could say, respectful in a sense, because I did not enjoy when he came up to Rachel after the Nerds Watch match, and the Nerds Watch, everything was up in the air with that. So you never know what you're going to get with Jay when he pops in and tries to recruit right here in these post-match interviews.
Yeah, it seemed a little inappropriate at that time. I agree with you. Brian, what did you think here? Anything stick out to you, or just kind of par for the course?
Well, Emma did say that Rachel is on fire, and for once I will agree with her as far as her fire assessment in this case. And as far as Jay immediately interrupting, come on. Let her celebrate her win for 1 minute before interrupting her post-match celebration. I don't think she liked the last time he interrupted. Obviously, she didn't like the last time because it was an important moment for the Nerds Watch. This could have been her last match with Ken. It could still be her last match with Ken. She wasn't happy then, and she did not look happy this time either. I mean, she just won an important match. If Jay wants to come out towards the end of the interview, that's one thing, but coming out before she can even say anything about this big win, I've got a real problem with that. So I didn't appreciate it with the Nerds Watch. I don't appreciate it now. If you look at Rachel, she's not happy with it either. So I think the situation was a bit more extreme than you guys maybe read it as, but I don't know. She seemed to be fuming. And after all, Emma did say she was on fire. So she was on fire because she was fuming over Jay.
That's
Straight fire.
Now, Rachel refused to give an answer on her team/stable future, so I like that she's still holding all the cards. She gets to decide what she wants to do. I respect that. But Emma did ask about Stacey or Ellis as far as a potential opponent. She respects both, of course, but she wants to play Stacey. So I like that women want to play women. I like that she wants to play Stacey. I like that after the Clarke-Brianne match that other women in this league want to take on the other women in this league. So I hope we see that as well. My bracket has us seeing that, but who knows? And Emma stated how she wants to see the two of them face off as well. However, she picked against the women squaring off against each other during the singles preview. So I at least appreciate that Emma has done an about face and is now in favor of seeing the women take on the women. So as long as you come around to the idea, that's all that matters.
About face. See what you did there. Well, let's talk about the other side of it. And instead of me just sitting here trying to describe to you what happened, let's just take a listen.
We are back with me, Emma Fife.
You're lucky to be here today. You know that, right?
It's actually my job to be here for all
Grace.
of the
No.
matches.
Grace is usually here, but she's gallivanting around figuring out stuff for us. Okay?
Right. Sure.
Continue.
Well, thank you for allowing me to be in your presence. I can't say that I'm necessarily super thrilled about it either. However, I am super thrilled to say that Marc Andreyko, you just didn't quite win this match today.
What kind of question was that? 5-point question. Henry Ford?
That was
discovering cars.
That was a legitimate 5-point question. Also, there have been several Fords who've been quite famous within Westerns, so it was a 5-point question, all right?
Well, yeah, he paid for the Oscar, obviously.
He did not pay for the Oscar, so...
Did he even win it? I don't even know if he won it. Who cares? That was a terrible thing.
Okay. Speaking of Oscars, Marc Andreyko, you did spin Oscars in the second round, and unfortunately, Rachel managed to steal 1 point from you, but well played. You closed the gap there since she got a good lead.
You
on
are
in
so
round one.
condescending. It's really kind of awesome. Wow.
Hey, I'm just saying.
Wow. Now I feel like I really should go full heel, Luna.
I like to see justice prevail, and that is what we saw.
Well, the
in
fashion
Rachel
police are going to be
Cushing.
coming for you pretty soon, so justice hopefully will prevail.
Wow, awesome, great. Taking stabs at my appearance. Well, you're out
here
there.
we go.
Listen, I'm taking stabs at your movie trivia, and last time I checked, this was a movie trivia game.
I'll play you anytime, anywhere.
Listen.
You will be a puddle of nothing.
Hey, I'm not saying that I would do well in movie trivia. Where's
not
Grace?
saying anything, really.
Grace hasn't showed up.
You were on the Night Sisters. It should be called the Good Night Sisters.
Wow. Okay. Fantastic. Well, anyway, Marc Andreyko, I am not sorry for your loss today. I'm very glad to see that Rachel Cushing has defeated you because Rachel is a good and honest person
Did you
who
hear
is
that
smart
noise?
and kept her composure.
It sounds like a
All right,
gas leak or
She's on
something.
something called the Nerd Watch. We don't need her in this interview anyway.
Okay, so we had Emma interviewing Andreyko and Snyder and Tom Dagnino were there. No Grace this time. And Dagnino, man, called the Night Sisters, should have been called the Good Night Sisters.
Aaron, where does that rank on your Dagnino list? Is that towards the top on your Dagnino quote list?
Clarke Wolfe, Who's He, is still my favorite one ever. And there's other ones that are close to my heart, but that's top 3. That's top marks.
I agree.
That's good stuff. That is good Tom stuff right there. We had Andreyko calling Emma out, saying that she was being condescending and said, I'll take you on, and then this whole weird back and forth about taking each other on. I mean, my goodness, it got kind of out of hand. It got weird. Frank, what did you think, man? What was your assessment here?
It was entertaining, and I loved it. I liked the fact that once Emma had them back on the mic, that she went after them, because Grace has been doing the interviews, as we all know, and so she took this opportunity to lay into them a little bit, and she got some return fire, especially from Dagnino, like we just heard. Some really great stuff, and then, obviously, Andreyko was having none of it. He's one of these guys that he can be really nice. He's more of like he's one of the more two-faced people in this faction. He can be really respectful and nice, and at the same time, he can throw you jabs, verbal jabs, that just make you want to cry if you're the other person. So, everything about this, I enjoyed 100%.
If you weren't impressed enough by Marc Andreyko's skills in the comic world, the guy's got not only the gift of gab, but the gift of jab on the mic. So, Brian, what is your assessment here? What do you think of this whole situation?
Well, aside from the Goodnight Sisters line, I do really appreciate do you hear that? It sounds like a gas leak line from Andreyko, just a great line there. But Android did make a great point. As the supposed face interviewer, quote unquote, Emma can be condescending towards the heels. That being said, I didn't like his comment about the fashion police coming for her. I don't like when people go after people's appearances. I've said that a number of times. When he says something like, "I'll play you anytime, you'll be a puddle of nothing," that's innocent smack right there, because it doesn't really mean anything. But going after her clothing, going after her style, that's a line that I won't cross, and I hope most people don't. And most people actually don't do that. So Android, once he gets teed up, he could be scary. I mean, we saw at Collision, he delivered that thunderous rant. We see what he's capable of. Sometimes he can be awfully quiet, or the majority of the time he can be awfully quiet. But when he gets set off, look out. And Fife is part of this face interviewer, heel interviewer storyline. However, are you really the face interviewer if you're a heel towards the heels? I think her approach has become counterintuitive, since she can't dish it to the degree that Top Den can. And if I was Fife, I'd be killing any and all heels with kindness. That way, she neutralizes their heelish ways, especially the Den, during post-matches. Conversely, Grace, that would then be the heel to all competitors, regardless if they're faces or heels. And that expands on her recent behavior of calling out her own den mates when they say something she doesn't like, such as Burnett or Android. So, as we've been saying for a while, this has to come to a head, but it really doesn't make sense if you are the face interviewer for you to then be a heel towards the heels. I think it'll be far more effective to neutralize them by just being nice, even if it's disingenuous. So, hopefully this interview leads to change in this regard. So this was something that I think they have to build on right away, because we cannot keep going through these motions. This has to reach its boiling point. I believe it has.
Yeah, I mean, she even walked away. So I don't know if maybe for the next time it's just not going to, maybe Snyder can interview for the next time. I don't know. I agree with everything you said. I think it needs to come to a head. As far as face heel announcers go, I'm more of the neutral guy. I'm a Gene Okerlund fan. I like that kind of stuff where Gene can play it either way. Emma's great. Emma's a great person, but I like more the Okerlund style. It's more my deal.
But do you know what I'm saying, though? I mean, if you are the face interview, then be a face regardless of who the competitor is. And
I get that, but I also get why Emma dishes it to the Den in some cases. But I think we've just got to the point now where we said it a million times, it just needs to come to a head. Submission match, cage match, first blood, doesn't matter. Let's get through this.
But she's dangling red meat in front of Dobermans, essentially, and I mean, she can dish it at times, but with Android and Snyder and Dagnino there, luckily Snyder kept quiet. Had all three of them ganged up on her, that could have been an even sadder sight. But this is why she's replaced during their post-match interviews, because if she tries to go at them, they're going to go at her twice as much. So I think she should try the kill them with kindness approach. That way she doesn't give them any red meat or any hanging breaking balls to smack out of the park. So that being said, Jen Sturger, my God, is she good? More on her later.
Well, I'll leave you with this. Friend of the show, God rest his soul, Rowdy Roddy Piper once said, "You never throw rocks at a man with a machine gun."
Those are wise words.
Indeed.
Let me just expand on the Andreyko Glenn Ford question that I mentioned earlier. I love that he said that it was a valid 5-pointer and that this should be the level that most 5-pointers strive for moving forward. So I like that he used a losing point of his to make a bigger point that I agree with, and I'm sure others do as well. So I like that he was big enough to admit that it should be the level that they strive for moving forward, instead of saying, oh my gosh, this question was way too hard compared to most 5-pointers. Why am I getting the hard 5-pointers? He could have said that, but I like that he said, no, let's stick to this level moving forward. So it wasn't all picking on Emma. There was some productive material to come out of this. Before we close, during the wrap-up, Christian tried to say that things seemed cordial between Cushing and Jay, and that couldn't be further from the truth, at least from the way that I read it. She looks steaming, and I'm still not happy that Jamie interrupted before Rachel had a chance to celebrate what is a big win for her in this round 1 tournament match. But Frank, I loved your Schmoedown stats segment once again. I didn't realize that this was potentially an all-time performance in terms of accuracy. It was the second best tourney accuracy rate and the 6th best individual performance overall in terms of the accuracy rate. So who would have thought? Who would have thought?
Well, I'm just here for the people, Brian. I'm glad you appreciate it.
Speaking of segments I appreciate our cooldown segments, especially when they're with the Crusher.
Hey Schmoedown Rundown fans, this is Rachel the Crusher Cushing, and I'm here to do a little post-match breakdown for you guys. So this week I took on Marc the Android Andreyko in round 1 of the Ultimate Schmoedown Singles Tournament, and surprise, surprise, I pulled out the victory. And I won't lie, it felt really great, but I have to say it wasn't about the win so much for me personally, and that's what this came down to. This was a personal victory in the sense that I played a good game. It wasn't just about, the win. It was about getting answers in the time frame allotted, not letting the pressure get to me, not letting expectations from fans and people at home and myself and everything get to me. And going into this, I had a lot on my mind, the losses in the team division with Ken, and Ken stepping back and having offers from other teams and factions, and and just life in general. Like it's a lot, guys. And for somebody who's still pretty new to the on-camera thing, going into the match, there's a lot going on in my head, and I really, really needed to prove to myself that I could get the answers I knew. Because here's the thing, guys, there are questions that every competitor has been asked that we just don't know, and those are fine. But we've also all been asked questions that we know, but we just can't get during a match. And that has happened to me more times than I would like in the last couple of team matches. So this time I really, really wanted to, be able to take a deep breath, dig deep, and get the answers I knew. So for the match itself, honestly, given all of that, it didn't start out that great. I swear, I love Toy Story, but I just couldn't get Ham. It was a question I knew, just like, Nocturnal Animals or The Man from U.N.C.L.E. or Stanley Ipkiss in The Mask. These are all questions I've been asked in the past that I couldn't get the answers to, but I knew. And here was another one, and it was the first question of our match. So yeah, that was tough, but for some reason this time, and believe me, I wish I knew the exact reason, I was able to brush it off and get the second question right, and then the third question, and then the fourth question, and then somehow by the end of round 1, I had the best round 1 I've ever had, and that felt great. I mean, to not only get 7 out of 8 questions, but to have a 3-point lead going into round 2, you never want to breathe easy, especially against, a competitor like Andreyko, but it made me believe that I could pull off the win. And so we went into round 2. My strategy is always to spin first. It's, I totally understand, Sam Levine and others whose strategy is to spin second so that you know exactly how many points you need to get, and it's calculated and it's logical. I don't really play a completely calculated and logical game. A lot of times I lead with my emotions and make a lot of gut, in the moment decisions. Case in point, I spun first and I spun animation, and I've had a lot of people ask why I spun away from it. And the answer is, as strong as I do think that category is for me, I hadn't had a lot of luck in it in my last 3 matches in my round 1 questions. I missed a Lego movie question in our team match against MODOK. I missed a Mulan question in our team match against Above the Line. And then I missed the ham question in this match. So I just wasn't feeling animation, and I took a really big risk, and it was like I said, a gut decision in that moment, and spun again and got Sandra Bullock movies. And yeah, it ended up going my way. It might not have. It's entirely possible that I could have gotten, even deeper cut movies, but luckily all the movies that, I was asked about I had seen, and even though I had to go to multiple choice, I felt very confident once I heard the answer. I knew what those answers were. And then I was pretty happy with the James Garner pull. It took me a minute, but I had read the book years ago for The Divine Secrets of the Yaya Sisterhood, and I remember that film, not because it's a good one, but just because there's a lot of great people and actors and actresses in it, and yeah, so I got that pull. But then, Marc spun Oscars, which is, here's the thing about Marc. Aside from him, being a member of the Lion's Den, we have a lot of really similar strengths, and Oscar movies is clearly one we're both great at. And as soon as he spun that, I knew that he could close the gap. So I knew the match wasn't over, and I got very lucky that he was asked about Jack Lemmon, because his first Oscar, his Best Actor, Oscar's only Best Actor Oscar, is for a very little known movie called Save the Tiger. And he wasn't able to pull it, and I was able to get the steal, which again is a bit of a confidence builder. He, of course, then, rolled right through the rest of his questions. And we were on to round 3, which, again, went well for me because, even though he got his 2-pointer and his 3-pointer, he, landed Westerns. And unless you're John Roca, there's not very many people in the league, I think, that would get a 5-point Western question. Yeah, the fates were in my favor, and I feel really great about the win, but I feel even better about my gameplay and my ability to get past, a frustrating miss in question 1 and dig deep and get the rest. I mean, I only missed that 1 question in this match, so that's a hell of a confidence booster. Yeah, so moving forward, it's round 2, and I don't think a lot of people expected me to be there, but I'm excited to. And it's either Stacy or Mark Ellis. And I don't know. I really don't know which one I'd rather play. I think that Stacy's a bit of a wild card. I mean, she doesn't have a lot of reps, as the boys on the rundown say. So it's hard to know for sure, but I think a lot of people underestimate her, and I refuse to do that. So if I play her, I know she's going to bring her A game. And honestly, if I play her, that means she beat Mark Ellis, which would be a hell of a win too. So, no underestimating there. And then if it's Mark Ellis, there's just kind of a cool factor there because he's one of the pioneers of the league. He created it with Christian, and I admire him so much because I want to have that attitude walking into a match. He's so laid back, but it just seems to come so easily to him, the answers and the way that he plays the game. I'm an emotional player, I'm a stressed out player at times, and he never, ever seems to let the stress or the emotion get to him, and I admire that. Either way, I think the match would be a ton of fun. Neither one of them are from an evil faction. Yes, I am still considering the offer from the Misfits, but I've got other offers, and there's still Ken in the mix, and honestly, I'm just not concentrating on that. But Stacy is a friend, and, I think that match would be a lot of fun, but so it would be with Ellis. All that said and done, round 1 is over for me. I can kick back and see how the rest of the matches go. And I guess one last thing I'd like to say before I sign off is that a little personal message to Mr. Tom Dagnino. I won that match against your boy, the android, fair and square, and there was not a single question about dragons. So I think I proved myself without actually having to, say anything specifically to that lying den. Gotta hate those guys. So thanks for having me on. I hope I didn't ramble too much with that, and I'll see y'all in round 2.
All right, guys, let's get into our second recap. It was the classy one, Clarke Wolfe versus Miss Movies, Brianne Chandler. And Brianne Chandler, of course, big time when it comes to entrances. She stepped up the promo game by basically kind of not having a promo. She went with the Regina George, that classic scene in Mean Girls where all the different people in the school are saying things that they've heard about Regina George. The John Stamos line was in there. The doing commercials in Japan was in there. I'm a huge fan of the film, so of course immediately I gravitated towards this. Frank, what did you think of this promo? Interesting take?
The first thing I thought of was, oddly enough, you, Aaron. I was like, you know who's going to love this? Aaron. And was I wrong? Yeah. No. So I'm just really happy for you that you get your Mean Girls fix in some form or fashion.
That's very kind. Brian, what did you think of this Regina George intro? A little different, something we haven't seen before.
Well, I like that Brianne cut her own montage a la Mean Girls, Regina George. It was quite innovative, and I do think, though, that Brianne should have tagged the montage with a Regina George moment of her own, since she didn't do an actual promo herself. I do think she should have tagged that montage with something such as, Clarke, stop trying to make genre happen. It's not going to happen. So that way she talks some smack. That way she has a Regina George moment of her own that continues her Miss Method approach to all these things, up there with fake Sharon and Harley Quinn and all that. So it was a fantastic montage, don't get me wrong, but I feel like it needed that one more tag to really add the exclamation point. But you love Miss Movies for this. She's always thinking outside the box. She's always going to outwork and out-prepare every other competitor. And as she said on Inside Schmoedown this week, you know, everybody else just shows up unprepared for these things. She thinks about every step, every segment, and that's very respectable. I wish more people had her drive and work ethic. It doesn't come down to money, guys. It just comes down to creativity and some thought. Put a little bit of thought, and you're going to up your game considerably.
Well, you know what the bad part about this promo was that Clarke had to follow it.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't know how it was going to go. Like the way that Christian alluded to it, I thought Clarke maybe had some sort of video montage as well, and that wasn't the case. It was a simple promo. I think also I missed the point here. This happened on Friday the 13th, which is just, this was made for Clarke Wolfe. Like, she's a genre fan, as she's trying to make genre happen apparently. I expected more out of this promo, but trying to follow that Regina George promo, I didn't think it was going to happen for her. What did you think, Frank?
Yeah, that's a tough act to follow, so I guess your best course of action is to not even try and one-up it. Just do your run-of-the-mill promo and be on with it.
Brian, were you kind of disappointed in this promo here?
Clarke's promo was very run-of-the-mill. In fact, this was probably her worst promo to date. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just trying to be honest. And she was still wearing the Wolves of Steel shirt, so more on that in a second, but she was very unfazed by heels. She doesn't like to engage in smack talk. She doesn't like to give heels anything to chew on. And that's kind of a follow-up point to what I said in regard to Emma Fyffe. Kill them with kindness. Don't give them a hanging breaking ball. Don't dangle red meat. She doesn't give them much to go with. And in this case, she didn't seem to have the same tenacity or focus as usual. I wonder what the surrounding circumstances were for this match, because one of the reasons that I took Brianne to win this match 2 months ago, in fact, literally 2 months ago, I mentioned that Clarke's spirit would be crushed given the team tourney loss. I know that she had very high hopes for winning that tournament with Riley, going out on a high note for Wolves of Steel, but they lost. They lost a very significant match, obviously, to Above the Line. And I knew that her play would be affected by that loss. And as soon as I saw her pop up on the screen, I could tell that she still had that significant loss on her mind. She just looked defeated before this match even started. And I think the disappointment over Wolves of Steel, the fact that she had that shirt on still, that told me what was going to happen from the jump.
Well, when we get to the intros here, Jay Washington coming out before Miss Movie saying that Clarke made a mistake by not joining the Misfits. She had her chance, did not take it, and may come back to bite her. But then Brianne came out. She had a bit of a parade of people in front of her. Stacy, Rachel, the Real Rejects were there. And she came out to Khaleesi's Milkshake, another Mean Girls reference if you have seen the film. And Clarke comes out. She's rocking the Rosie the Riveter, the Clarke Wolfe Strong. And call back to a Brian Ward poster, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Frank, anything stick out to you here?
I just want to know, do the Misfits have the Real Rejects on retainer? Because they are there literally for every entrance. And hey, they make entrances as good as anyone in terms of Brianne Chandler, Stacey Howard, and when they collaborate with Real Rejects. It's always fun to see what they come up with.
Fun fact, 6 Degrees are Real Rejects patrons, so Real Rejects are making good on their Patreon rewards.
I like this one, the Burn Book. Yeah, that was great. And then I don't know if any of the people listening have gone onto the Misfit Facebook group page, but Brianne actually posted close-ups of the pages in the book. I highly suggest you go check it out. Really funny stuff. I laughed at just about every single page.
Frank, I don't know if you caught the lyrics of the song, but the milkshake brings all the boys to the yard, so it makes sense.
Well, those boys have been in the yard for a long time, so no one new came.
Well, Frank, I could teach you, but I have to charge.
No!
Brian, what did you think here? Anything stick out to you here, Brian?
Well, lots of things, in fact, but definitely check out the Burn Book as it's in that Facebook group currently. Not the Facebook group, but the Misfit-specific Facebook group. And I believe she's posting close-ups to Twitter tomorrow. There was a protest today on Twitter, or a boycott on Twitter today, so she's waiting until Saturday, but they will be up there on Saturday as you're hearing this. And guys, I may or may not have ghostwritten a few pages in this book, so I'm just patting myself on the back as I am one to do. So keep that in mind. See if you can spot what I might have contributed. I'm sure it'll stick out quite clear.
Did you write the Bibiani one? Because that one is amazing. I'm not going to say what it is because I want people to go check it out for themselves, but I got to know.
Franklin, a ghostwriter never kisses and tells.
Okay, fair enough.
As Aaron already mentioned, I also loved how Clarke personified Brian Ward's Wolf Can Do It poster as she did the Rosie the Riveter flex. I love the Cody Decker cameo. Cody Decker, folks, this is someone that you want to keep an eye on to start next season. I think he's going to make waves. I heard him on Fredo Files, as I've said before, and he impressed me with his knowledge just in that conversation alone. But Jamian, guys, he interrupts another match, this time before the match, saying how Clarke made a mistake, just like Rachel made a mistake by rejecting his offer. And he's proving, with all these untimely interruptions, why they're rejecting his offer. So I understand that you want to be aggressive, but you don't need to aggressively shame them for saying no. So I like Jamian, but in this case, pick your spots. That's all I can say. But yeah, I was very concerned about Clarke. Like I said, I think the Wolves of Steel loss crushed her, no pun intended. And I really didn't think she'd stand a chance in this match as I was watching it. And of course, not just because I picked Brianne 2 months ago.
Coming in hot on Jay Washington. My goodness.
No, it's Jamian, apparently.
Aaron, do you realize why I'm calling Jay Jamian?
I don't. Please explain.
Because he was the Damien of the group for this episode.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe you meant in the terms of Damien as Jay Washington was the Omen, since he foretold of future events that maybe Clarke could join the Misfits. Anyway, sorry. Halloween has corrupted my brain. I'm sorry.
If Stacey Howard is Lindsay Lohan's Katie Heron, given the red hair, and Brianne is Regina George, then Jay has to be Jamian, since Damien was the outspoken one who is often in between Katie and Janice, functioning as their manager/mouthpiece in a way. So, that being said, I can't decide who's Janice Ian between John Humphrey and Greg Alba.
Yes. Why does it got to be Damien? Why can't he be Gretchen Wieners?
Like I said, Jamian is outspoken like Damien, and Damien was the third wheel to Katie and Janice, much like Jamian and 6 Degrees.
Stop trying to get Clarke Wolfe in your group. It's not going to happen, Jay.
You can't sit with us. You can't sit with us. All right, let's talk about round one. Clarke Wolfe going 6 of 8 for 6 points. And Miss Movies also going 6 of 8 for 6 points. Pretty even here after round one, but I sense Brian was talking about it. I feel like the Misfits got in Clarke's head. They're being loud on the sideline. And as we've seen in the previous Schmoedowns, Clarke and Dan Murrell had a matchup where there was no one else in the studio for concentration purposes. We've talked to Clarke in the past. She has trouble concentrating sometimes. And this does not help when a whole group of people are chanting for somebody to win. Frank, what's your take? What do you think of round one here?
Yeah, if that's all true what you're saying, I think she performed very well considering the circumstances then. She missed the questions that Brianne missed. So, I thought it was just another run-of-the-mill performance from Clarke Wolfe. This is what she does, 6-7 points. Has yet to obtain the perfect round, although she's come close in past first rounds, whether it's team or here in the singles. And then Brianne, she had 4 points her last time out with Team 6 Degrees against DC Movie News. 4 points, that's hard to swallow. It was a crushing defeat, and she came out here in the first round and put up 6 points. That's a good sign right off the bat if you're a fan of the Misfits that she's going to have a good match.
Brian, 6-6 after one. What's your take here?
I don't want to call Clarke's 6-point round one run-of-the-mill just because relative to her other round ones, it's a rather impressive round, all things considered. Yeah, you want her to score 7. Yeah, you want her to score 8. But 6 out of 8, that's nothing to scoff at. Brianne, of course, this may have been her best round one. You may have said that already, but 6-6 in round one, I don't know if a lot of people would have expected that going into this. And Aaron, you mentioned that the Misfits might be under Clarke's skin. There's probably some validity in that, but even before the crowd was present, even before the Misfits were firing shots at her, just in her standalone promo, she just looked defeated. I absolutely have to believe that relates to the team tournament disappointment, but enough on that. A universal miss to start off the match. That's always interesting when that happens. The cat in American Tail, Dom DeLuise. Another universal miss on question 6, Act of Valor. That's kind of a tough pull. I mean, I'm sure we all knew it. It got a lot of attention for its authenticity, but that's a very tough pull, especially at a time when so many modern-day war films were coming out. But my goodness, it was neck and neck first round, as neither player wanted to take the lead since they missed the same questions and answered the same questions. Again, I can't scoff at 6 points each. Everybody knows I picked Chandler 6 months ago, 12 months ago, but I'm sure everyone who picked Wolfe, which was almost everybody, started getting nervous as soon as this round completed. As soon as they saw that Brianne was neck and neck with Clarke, I'm sure the majority of people that picked Clarke started to get very nervous. So you could tell, as Aaron said, that the crowd was on Brianne's side. There was so much momentum in Brianne's favor, and the fact that she matched Clarke's 6 points, I said it before, I knew Brianne would win based on her not caring before, based on the fact that Clarke was defeated from the team tournament. But after her performance in round one, I was even more of the belief that Brianne was going to win this match.
Let's talk about round two now. Clarke steps up to the wheel. She gets Tom Hanks. She was not very happy with her wheel spin. We know she's had wheel issues in the past, but she goes 3 of 4. She gets 5 points, so it's 11-6. Clarke at the turn. I feel like, we talked about it. I didn't feel like Clarke Wolfe was on her game, and I really didn't feel like it here. What about you, Frank?
Yeah, this whole round just seemed off by her body language, spinning Hanks and then putting her face in her hands. All of that didn't really exude confidence. I think she was obviously afraid of what she would get on a second spin, so she stuck with Hanks. And this is not an easy category because this guy's been acting for decades, and that's a lot of movies, a lot of co-stars, a lot of directors, a lot of different types of films you're going to have to cycle through to get an answer without trying to go to multiple choice, which was really the key here, was trying not to go multiple choice too many times because they're tied at 6, and you want to build a big enough lead going into that final round. But she had 5 points in this round. Not too bad. I went to multiple choice once, didn't suffer a steal by Brianne when she gave up that second question. So it was an okay round, all things considered.
Brian, what was your take here, round two?
Jumping back just a second, Michelle Pfeiffer popped up in round one, so the Pfeiffer-sance continues even in the Schmoedown. And I just want to give credit to Brianne on that 7th question, the Fast and Furious question for Justin Lin. She used the repeat rule to buy herself enough time to rewrite her first answer, which was wrong. So Brianne playing very well in round one, despite those 2 misses, showing restraint, showing patience, showing that she's thinking through and not rushing. So I was very impressed with her play. But yeah, Clarke, in round two, She spun first, defying the popular defer strategy. So I can't remember what Clarke usually does in singles. I can't remember what Wolves of Steel do in most cases, but so many people have been jumping aboard the defer strategy, but not Clarke in this case. She landed Tom Hanks. She didn't seem happy about it, as we've mentioned. And question 2, guys, which movie did Belushi and Hanks share? She didn't go to multiple choice. She did not lay up. She did not lay it up, as we say. And she missed it. So there was no steal from Brianne, of course. The answer was The Man with One Red Shoe. Clarke maintained her 7-6 lead. However, when it comes to a match like this, you've got to lay up. You've got to go multiple choice and come away with a point here. So there must have been some doubt in her mind about the answer. This was a missed opportunity to get a point, and this 1 point, as well as another point, was going to come back to haunt her later in the match. But really, you cannot take a risk like this in a match like this, especially when it's such a close match with a 1 point lead. And question 2 also illustrates how neither player could make the other one pay. Neither of them could exploit the other's mistakes. One would make a mistake, the other would answer with a mistake, so no one could run away with this match. They were essentially just trading misses whenever the other one would miss. So this match was bound to go down to the wire at this rate, but Clarke, it's a costly non-multiple choice on question 2. As a result, 5 points out of 8. Not bad, but still, for a player of Clarke's caliber, she's got to play smart on question 2. I keep saying it. I've said it enough.
It's amazing how just one thing can just flip a match just like that. That's crazy. Miss Movies was up on her spin. She got Pixar. She decided to stick with it. She went 3 of 4. She got 4 points. But Clarke still led at the end of 2, 11-10. I did like Miss Movie's strategy, though. She's playing a little small ball. She was keeping herself in it. She didn't want to make the same mistake of giving away maybe a 2-point answer. So she played it safe, got herself a shot to stay with it, and maybe make a run here at the end. Frank, what'd you think?
Yeah, I thought it was huge that she got 2 points right off the bat on that first question, because then, mathematically, if she had to go multiple choice through the rest of the round, and she got them all right, she would still remain tied, which is really the most you could ask for in this kind of match as it unfolded. So she did go to multiple choice the other 3 questions. She only answered 2 of them correctly. Still, I think it was a sound strategy, trying not to let the game get away too much from her, because she didn't really have to take a shot here because everything was still within arm's reach. And so I thought it was a good strategy. It ended up working out in the end, although it could have backfired.
Yeah, that first question, the Ratatouille question, so huge. It gave her a little bit of a boost for the rest of the turn. And yeah, she played it smart. On her question, too, she went to multiple choice. She didn't just throw out an answer, and she got 1 point there, 11-9. Multiple choice again on the Richard Kind question, 11-10. Question 4, though, this was a very interesting question for a variety of reasons. Cattle rustlers. Some people don't realize what a rustler is or what a cattle rustler is. I know that Brianne had some struggles with the understanding there, but she did use her repeat rule, her second repeat rule, but she missed it. She guessed Tyrannosaurus. It was written as Tyrannosaurus. Clarke had the steal opportunity, and her answer was Triceratops, aka Trisaniteratops. But here's the thing. The question asked what kind of dinosaurs, plural, were the cattle rustlers in The Good Dinosaur. Now, I haven't seen the film due to the non-recommendation of someone who worked at Pixar during this film's development and filming. So this was just a bad guess considering it was a plural-based question asking for what kind of dinosaurs, plural. I just can't imagine a story having multiple T-Rexes rustling up cattle. Now, I understand this film did have a few T-Rexes grouped together. However, Jurassic Park set this precedent in our mind that the T-Rex is too badass to need company. And T-Rexes aren't going to rustle up cattle. They're going to eat the cattle. So when you think about the precedent that Jurassic Park has established, I did not like either of their guesses. And Clarke Wolfe is historically a great stealer, but she again failed to capitalize on Chandler's mistakes throughout this match. Her guess was just as bad as Brianne's because Triceratops, Trisaniteratops, They are too slow. They do not have the agility to rustle up cattle, if you think about it. So had either player, regardless if they've seen the film, had they just followed the Jurassic Park playbook, they would have come away with 1 point. Nevertheless, it was the end of a 4-point turn for Chandler as Wolfe maintained that 1-point lead heading into round 3. However, there could have easily been another 2 points for Wolfe had she laid up on her question 2 during her turn via multiple choice and stolen that very answerable dinosaur question. Velociraptors, we know, is a group of velociraptors because we've all seen Jurassic Park, and that was where I instantly went to because of Jurassic Park. They are quick enough to potentially rustle up some cattle. Yeah, they have potential of killing the cattle, but that just seemed like the most obvious answer. You could see these filmmakers being inspired by Jurassic Park as well. I don't know why I'm so hung up on Jurassic Park, but
this is the most dinosaur education I've ever had.
I've never seen this film, but if I just thought of Jurassic Park and I came away with velociraptors just based on simple reasoning.
Can I be honest with you guys for a second? This is more than anyone has ever talked about this film.
Probably.
Like this is way more of a discussion that's ever been had about this film. And Chris Skaliski, Rustler genes. All right, let's get to round 3. Miss Movies was up first. She got the 2-pointer. Linda Hamilton and Emilia Clarke both play Sarah Connor in Terminator films. Films important, not to be confused with TV, which would have been, of course, Lena Headey from Game of Thrones. 12-11, Miss Movies here.
First off, I love that you pronounce Lena Headey correctly. So many people, even diehard Game of Thrones fans, mispronounce that. And second of all, the Sarah Connor Chronicles was fantastic. That is the best Terminator property since Judgment Day. But back to this question, Wolfsbane Chandler answered with Linda Hamilton far too soon without having Emilia Clarke in mind yet. It worked out for her regardless, but she put herself in a very dangerous situation by not having Khaleesi ready in her mind. Players, always take your time. This is something that we always preach and suggest. I know it's easy for me, for us to say this from our perspective, but it's absolutely true. She came away with the point nonetheless, but she admitted to me privately that she said Linda Hamilton too quickly and did not have Khaleesi ready in her mind. So they gave her the time, a little more time than I thought they would, to come up with Khaleesi, but this could have been a very dangerous situation.
I'm not following exactly. Are you saying that once she starts the answer, the time runs I don't know, what are you saying happens with the time there? I'm trying to follow.
Because she answered with Linda Hamilton right out of the gate, she ran the risk of being timed out while thinking of the Khaleesi answer. Typically, your first answer starts the clock on any and all answers. You can't just make a sandwich in between answers. That's why the proper strategy, as Chandler later admitted, was to use up as much clock as possible to think of both answers and then begin your 2-part answer. It all worked out, but this could have backfired in a big way.
Well, you still have the same amount of time to come up with Emilia Clarke, whether you say Linda Hamilton a split second after the question's asked or at the very end. Is that right or not?
Both answers have to be given in the same period of time, but by answering Linda Hamilton prematurely, she started the clock prematurely. The clock doesn't just reset for each answer. She had time to think of both answers before the countdown would start. So never give the first part of a 2-part answer too soon, initiating the clock. Always take as much time as possible. Granted, we don't have many multiple answer questions to compare to this, but you don't get to sit there for 20 seconds in between answers. Once you start your answer, you're implying that you're ready.
I'm going to give Miss Movies a pass on this because I think all of us that have seen Terminator Genesis or Jenny Smith, whatever you want to call it, we all tried to forget it. So I'll give her a pass on that.
Quick question, which one do you prefer, Genesis or Salvation?
Salvation, because
Salvation.
I've been directed by Mick G, so he's my guy.
Guess where he's from?
Where's he from?
Newport Beach.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. Grew up with Mark McGrath. They're best friends.
Huh, interesting. I'm going to see Mark McGrath here in a couple weeks. We go over to Clarke. She got the 2-pointer. It was Hercules that went from 0 to hero. 13-12 Clarke after this point.
Did you guys know the answer to this question?
Yeah. I grew up. My mom had a home daycare growing up, so we saw all these movies, man.
It's my favorite classic Disney animated movie is Hercules.
I forgot how young you guys are because when I was growing up, There was Aladdin, there was Beauty and the Beast, there was The Lion King, and there was The Little Mermaid. There was 4 movies. That was it.
Well, I did kind of qualify my answer, so...
James Woods as Hades? Like, come on, bro.
I only know James Woods from The Getaway, The Specialist, Casino, Videodrome.
13 to 12, Clarke. At this point, we go over to Miss Movies. How fitting was this answer? Pamela Voorhees is the name of Jason's mother in Friday the 13th. Rest in peace, Betsy Palmer. 15 to 13, Miss Movies. We go over to Clarke. She missed the 3-pointer. Ben-Hur was the Oscar-winning film of Charlton Heston. 15 to 13, so Clarke now has to hit this. And she nails it. Kevin Spacey was held hostage by Dennis Leary in the ref. So it is 18 to 15. Brianne is up. She's got to hit the 5-pointer to win and pull the upset, and she does it.
You chose number 17, Brianne. That is the category of movie characters. In what film will you find Jack Black playing the energetic Dewey Finn?
School of Rock?
And your winner,
I don't know if that's
ladies and gentlemen,
That's right. You're what you
Miss Movies.
Jack Black's character Dewey in School of Rock, and Miss Movies defeats Clarke Wolfe 20 to 18, sending quite a few brackets into the trash in the process. She will play Mike Kalinowski in a round 2 rematch. Frank, what'd you think here, man?
Just impressive stuff from both players here in the final round. Pressure-packed moments, answering the 5-pointer, each of them, and they did that. It's a shame the match ended here. I could have watched this match go on for another 3 rounds, another 6 rounds. It was really something to watch. It's one of the better matches we've had thus far in the tournament, really this season as well. So a high-scoring match, 20 to 18. Really happy for Brianne. She's been trying to get some notable wins. She hasn't been given the best players to play besides Kalinowski. She finally takes down a legend, as she says. It's a great win for her. For Wolfe, a little disappointing to be out in the first round again. She had one of her better matches she's ever had in her career, and it just wasn't enough. But this match was something else, that's for sure.
Yeah, disappointing on Clarke's behalf. Brianne did kind of break kayfabe. She got a little emotional at the end, did a little hugging. I'll allow it. I thought it was fine. Big statement win for her. Brian, what was your take?
You guys have jumped way far ahead, but Frank, did you know that Pamela Voorhees was in John Carpenter's Friday the 13th film?
Stop it.
Listen, I'm not good at trivia, so... So what does that tell you?
I didn't know it either, so I thought it was a relatively challenging 3-pointer, but I'm not familiar with Carpenter's work. But Clarke Wolfe's 3-pointer, guys, Heston's Best Picture, Ben-Hur. She missed it. She said 10 Commandments, which that was wrong. It was nominated, but it didn't win. However, once she heard Oscars, she didn't look happy upon hearing Oscars. So the entire match, she just had this defeated body language. Nothing was going her way from the looks of it. However, there was another answer to this question, guys, as Heston was second billing in The Greatest Show on Earth, which also won Best Picture. So there was another potential option that she potentially could have come up with, but more on this in a second. Clarke Wolfe's 5-pointer, Kevin Spacey, as one of the 2 bickering spouses in The Ref. This was an interesting question, as it's one that can be answered via its trailer. And The Ref's trailer was memorable back in '94 because it was such a Home Alone ripoff, only it was for adults. Kevin Spacey and Judy Davis literally bickered as soon as they showed up in the trailer, and it was, again, a memorable trailer because it was trying to be the Home Alone for adults. Now, I don't think the Jack Black Dewey Finn question is as easy as everybody is trying to claim. Dewey Finn is no Deputy Dewey Riley, no Dewey Duck, or no Dewey Crow when it comes to famous on-screen Deweys. Obviously, Dewey Finn never transcended pop culture like Han Solo or Patrick Bateman. Had the question asked for Jack Black's character name, would Dewey Finn be answered by the majority of Schmoedown players? I don't think so. Furthermore, the name Dewey Finn wasn't in the trailer. It certainly wasn't on the poster. More importantly, Dewey Finn impersonates his roommate Ned Schneebly to get the teaching gig in that movie. He even went by the nickname Mr. S during much of this movie. So the question is no Glenn Ford in 310 to Yuma as far as difficulty, but it's no 3-point Green Goblin question in terms of ease. This match ultimately came down to Clarke missing her Ben-Hur 3-pointer. And you could even argue that that was an easy 3-pointer. The movie was just remade a year or two ago, and I remember hearing several times on Movie Talk about this because they'd referenced the fact that the film was a remake of the Best Picture winner with Charlton Heston. So Ben-Hur was the difference, along with Clarke's failure to use multiple choice in round 2, question 2, or that failed steal opportunity during Brianne's turn. Brianne made Clarke pay via her 5-pointer, securing the 2-point victory. Neither player could capitalize on the other's mistakes until Chandler did so on her last question. All in all, I thought this was a great match. It's certainly the best woman v woman match we've ever seen. And Wolfsbane Chandler played her best match ever, scoring all 10 of her available points in round 3, resulting in 20 points, the most points scored by a woman in singles of any kind. So to wrap up, this is why I picked Wolfsbane Chandler 2 months ago when she didn't give an F about this Clarke match upon losing to DC Movie News. I didn't see her pressing as much as she normally does in most matches. She seemed at peace, win or lose. Clarke, she did not seem at peace. She seemed tortured, and I still believe it was that big loss via Wolves of Steel in the team tournament. So as we've seen, when people play with nothing to lose, all the Riley in teams or Christian in singles, sometimes they get those breaks they wouldn't normally get when they're trying so hard for a win.
Now, Brian, I know you're not a big genre fan, but I want to ask you this trivia question because it ties into a lot of things that we talked about on the show previously. It's very fitting that this match took place on Friday the 13th for many reasons. The Betsy Palmer thing, Clarke's genre love. Do you know what the title of Friday the 13th Part 7 is?
Tom Kaczynski's Rage.
It's The New Blood is the answer. It is The New Blood. And how fitting is it that the New Blood has taken over the Old Guard? Fitting on Friday the 13th. I had to throw that in there.
Very nice.
Amazing stuff from Brianne Chandler. Very proud of her in this victory. I'm a fan of Clarke's. I'm a fan of Brianne's as well. This was a tremendous match. A fight to the finish and well-earned victory. I feel bad for Clarke that she's lost 2 times in the tournament. This is probably going to stick with her for a bit. But kudos to Miss Movies. I take nothing away from her. She did a great, great job.
To that point, I don't like that Christian tried to demean her win by saying how easy that 5-pointer was. Because as I just argued, I don't think it's as easy as people are making it out to be. I'm not saying it's the most difficult 5-pointer ever, but I don't like that Christian took away from this momentous win on Miss Movie's part. And he didn't care previously that the Green Goblin question, the 3-point Green Goblin question, was easy when action beat T10. He famously said on Inside Schmoedown, I don't care if people think it's easy. That's the way the game goes. Everybody gets that easy question once in a while. It's a balance that everybody benefits and loses from at times. So, I feel like Miss Movies deserved to have this moment to herself. Clarke had opportunities to win, but she left points on the table. And that Ben-Hur question, that is an answerable question that she just did not come away with. Plus, it had a second answer, the greatest show on earth. So I can't let people take away from Miss Movies when, as I explained, Dewey Finn is not even the name the character goes by for much of the movie.
To quote Frank Janisch, she don't write them, she just answers them.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the post-match now. We're talking about the burn book a little bit. Jay Washington in there. He lays out a little bit on this. He says a little bit, but then he lets Brianne have her moment. And I got one bullet point here. Mike Kalinowski is the homecoming king of Vanilla High. That's amazing. I love that line very, very much. I don't know who was writing these burn book things. Brian, I know you said you may have had some contributions, but my goodness, tremendous stuff here. Frank, what was your take?
I love the burn book. It was great to see that her artistic expression was put into a book. I thought it was great. I know Jay is the mouthpiece for the Misfits. sometimes I get the feeling he talks a little too much for them, and so I was glad to see him take a step back and let Brianne voice her opinions on the match and going forward. So yeah, that's all I got to say about that.
Frank, you're already in a little hot water with Jay Washington. Let's just...
It's okay.
Chicago natives going at it. It's not good.
That's what we do. That's what we do.
Frank, I presume that you did not go to Jay Washington's stand-up show last weekend in Chicago?
Unfortunately, I was working during that time, so I would have went, but yeah, I was working.
You guys could have buried the hatchet. That's a shame, but Jamie and Washington guaranteed that Stacy would beat Carrots because Brianne beat Clarke. So he was ecstatic about this, but I don't see how he makes the correlation that Stacy's going to do the same. It's a totally different circumstance. But yeah, the homecoming king of Vanilla High School, that was all Brianne. She's really been dishing it to Kalinowski for a while. And look, Kalinowski's a face. There are way too many heels in this league, and I know some people want to project Kalinowski as a heel, but as I've been saying, there are not enough faces in this league. I could never take Kalinowski seriously as a heel. He just looks too much like a face, and we're in a major face shortage right now. So I don't mind that he is not flashy on the mic. I don't care. Like, we have too many people that are flashy on the mic. We have too many heels. It's nice to have someone who is just plain old vanilla. So I realize that's the way things go. Heels take shots at faces. Faces take shot at heels. But Mike Kalinowski, if you happen to be listening to this, keep doing what you're doing. There's nothing wrong with being a king of Vanilla High School, if you ask me. But thank God Jamie handed the mic to Brianne for her moment and then walked off. Jamie made much of this week about him, so I like that he finally gave the mic over and just stepped out of the way. I respect what he does. I like that he's their mouthpiece, but this is the biggest win of Brianne's career. Let her have this. And he did. But Wolfsbane called Clarke a legend. She showed respect for Clarke. But now jumping to Jen and Clarke, Jen tried to get Clarke to admit as to whether she would be rooting for Brianne now that Brianne has beaten her. So in a lot of cases, JTE does this a lot. If you lose to someone, you want to see that person win because you want to be able to say that you lost to the eventual champion. That is kind of a consolation for people who lose in such competitions. If you're going to lose, at least you lost to the winner of that competition. But Clarke was not having that. Clarke just won't root for heels, apparently. But I really thought Clarke could have shown a bit more respect for Brianne, given that this was a woman opposite her. This was a peer. This was someone who's just like her. There's very few women in this league, and I really wish Clarke had shown a bit more respect for Brianne's accomplishment instead of saying how, I'm not going to root for heels. Like, Brianne's win was bigger than her face or heel persona. It was a really big moment in her career. And I don't know. I didn't like Clarke's attitude this entire match. I know it's not completely fair to say that, but when you look back at the promo, when you look back at her body language, she just did not seem into this match, and I gotta believe Wolves of Steel made that impact. And Clarke keeps getting asked about her new teammate. A lot of people want Clarke and Rachel to team up, even though the Nerds Watch is still up in the air, and that would be an awfully nice way for Clarke to avenge this loss to the Misfits. That would be a nice way to get back at Jay Washington for giving her such a hard time. But did you guys sense the tension between Jen and Clarke during Clarke's post-interview? Am I the only one who noticed this?
Jen, actually, I noticed, slowed down her cadence in questioning. She was like, I hope that you come back very soon. Like, she kind of almost went robotic with it. I noticed it. Very subtle turn, and she's a pro, so it doesn't surprise me that she pulled a subtlety that will go over most people's heads. But yeah, I saw exactly what you're talking about.
Once Clarke refused to support Miss Movies potentially winning the entire tournament, I think that's when the shift from Jen came into play, because she did not get the answer that she thought she was going to get from Clarke. So from that point, she kind of was walking on eggshells. She was trying not to upset Clarke, because Clarke was clearly upset about this loss. She was obviously upset about the Wolves of Steel loss that had happened prior to that. So you're absolutely right. There was a way that Jen adjusted to the subject. And that's why Jen is such a fantastic interviewer, because she reads the room, she reads the subject, and adapts to them accordingly.
All right, guys, let's close it out with what we like to call Who Won the Week. There's many options this week. I mean, you could say even really David Griffin if you wanted to. The Schmoedown could be a winner because of the app and all that kind of fun stuff. Rachel, Brianne, but I think it has to be Brianne for me. I think landmark win, huge upset, great matchup. Got to give it to her, man. I take nothing away from her, man. I don't care what you say about that 5-point question. You got to answer him. She did it. She won. Hats off to her. She won the week for me. What about you, Frank?
As much as I would like to give it to Brianne for taking down a legend in Clarke Wolfe, it's got to be Rachel Cushing for me. She gave one of the, now say it with me, an all-timer in the Schmoedown. She did great, and she's living up to the hype everyone has put on top of her. She was able to pull through a huge victory, going 13 of 14. That's ridiculous. 13 in a row because you missed the first one. She wins the week because she's a triple threat, and a performance like this in singles is only solidifying that fact even more.
Can't disagree with you there. I just hope she and I can still be friends after I picked her to lose this match. Rachel, please don't hate me. I know she had some thoughts after listening to bracketology. Brian, who won the week for you, man?
Well, speaking of all-time performances, Brianne Chandler scored 20 points in singles, and that is the record for a woman in singles competition. Rachel Cushing has never put up 20 points in singles, so if you want to reference stats, I think that is a very important stat. And Wolfsbane Chandler won the week without a doubt. She was part of the best woman v woman match in Schmoedown history. She set the record, like I just said, for a performance by a woman in league or tournament play. Before somebody tries to counter with Cushing scored 20 against KO Kalinowski in Inner Geekdom, those 3-round Inner Geekdom matches have 12 first-round questions and 5 round 2 questions. So scoring 20 with 5 extra questions, come on. Clearly Brianne is the record holder for women with 20, but I'm glad the pre-match highlight package featured the moment where Wolfsbane said that she doesn't give an F about this match, because not giving an F, as we've seen with Harloff, Riley, and now Chandler, leads to Schmoedown success for whatever reason. So Wolfsbane won the week. This was the best match of her career. Congratulations, Chandler.
All right, that's going to end this show. Thank you for listening to episode number 55 of the Schmoedown Rundown. Before we get out of here, Frank Janisch, where can you be found, buddy?
You can find me on Twitter at FrankieJ29, and of course, for more stats, check out at SD Rundown Stats for all the stats. Stats.
Stat sack indeed. Brian Davids, where can you be found, man?
Twitter at BDF331, as well as filmschlubspodcast.com.
And my name is Aaron. You can find me kicking yo ass in the Movie Trivia Schmoedown app. If you come across me and you somehow beat me, of course, screenshot it, send it to me. I will get you a Blu-ray of your choice. US only. AT Titanium on Twitter. You can send it to me on Facebook if you want. Happy hunting, guys. We'll see you next week.